Hi again, everyone. Hope you're all doing really well. I'm here again on the floor in yet another room of my house. So Aterian stock, ticker symbol ATER, despite finishing Thursday's session down by 12 cents, I think it has really capped off quite a strong week for the stock. So while we saw a negative finish on Thursday's session, you have to keep in mind that during the day, the stock hit a new year-to-date high, rallying up as high as $6.47 early on in the day, and actually managed to maintain quite elevated levels throughout the session. I think what we sort of started to see at the end was the sort of typical thing that you see in these sorts of plays, where there is a bit of profit taking happening towards the end of the trading week, as it was a reduced trading week because of Easter. In a sign that there is still some positive momentum for this play, the stock actually managed to rally a little bit in the aftermarket, clawing back to $5.53. So if you consider that, that means the stock actually only closed down by about 1 cent on the day. So far over the last 2.5 weeks, the stock has more than doubled in value. So it is quite a strong momentum play at the moment. The stock for pretty much this whole week has occupied the first position on the Fintel short squeeze candidate list, and it has a borrow fee of 110%, which since the borrow fee has been up for quite some time now, there is actually quite a large amount of pressure being put on shorts to cover. Still, while the numbers are a little bit lagged, it's still reporting 34% of the float is outstandingly held in short positions. So there is still a lot of positive momentum that could come from this play yet too. Now, one thing I was a little bit concerned about with the stock in recent times was that there was starting to see a sign of volume dropping off, which can be a sign that a short squeeze play may be starting to unravel a little bit. However, both on Wednesday and Thursday, the volume has continued to return, and that's a positive sign for this play continuing on into next week. Also, while the stock has been heavily overbought in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, our MACD indicator is still showing us that there is positive momentum for the stock, which is a further sign that we could be seeing a continued rise in the stock price come next week. Interestingly, obviously the retail scene is really behind this play at the moment, and it is still putting Aterian at the top of the most talked about stocks on Reddit, which is very surprising because on Thursday, that was the day that Elon Musk sort of announced that he had put in an offer to buy all of Twitter, and even Twitter couldn't take over Aterian in terms of being the most talked about stock on Reddit. So the retail scene is still very much behind this play at the moment. Now, I want to clear up a mistake I made in my last video. I sort of mentioned that the warrants that were issued for Aterian stock to issue 17.5 million shares were going to be executed over time up until September. I actually had misread the point, and we had a good discussion in the comment sessions there, so I want to apologize for that. Just to clear up, any sort of dilution effect that will come from those warrants being executed won't occur until September, although markets will tend to price this sort of thing in before the date. Now, on that point, in terms of pricing it in and the effects of dilution, this actual equity raise is probably a good thing for Aterian. So if you execute the warrants, you have to pay $3.20 per share, which basically is all cash onto the balance sheet for Aterian. Based on the December quarters, Aterian has a underlying book value of about 50 cents of net assets per share. So if you're getting $3.20 bought in for every extra share issued, it will actually bring up the value of the existing shares in circulation. So it's probably actually a good thing for shareholders long term. Even though we see all more shares entering into circulation, the amount of assets that underpin those shares has gone up. The important thing is that we've got to hope that Aterian is able to properly utilize this extra cash that they're raising in a profitable and meaningful way. Because what's the good of having a whole lot of cash if you're not doing much with it? Now, related to this issue, Aterian as a company has actually been ranked by the Financial Times as the 166th fastest growing company in the Americas. So that's North, South, and Central America, out of 500. And this is actually the third year that they have appeared on that list. So it sort of shows that they are a company that is really going through a lot of growth at the moment. So perhaps any money raised from this equity raise in September is going to actually help further fuel that and see greater growth for the company going forward. So I guess having looked into the announcement a little bit more, I guess the 17.5 million shares that are being raised is actually probably going to be a good thing, given that it is going to boost the underlying value of Aterian stock. And anyway, I hope that sort of clears up the confusion from my last bit if you had followed on from there. Now, in terms of what bearing this could have on the current short squeeze play, well, I think as retailers become more familiar with what is going on with the underlying value of the stock, it actually may further encourage them to buy into the stock. So if the short squeeze does start to come undone, at least the underlying value in the stock is still quite strong, and we are investing in a company that is relatively high growth, despite not really being profitable at this point in time. Anyway, that's about it for this one. Let me know your thoughts on Aterian stock in the comments below. Are we going to see this great run continue into next week? And how much further do you think this current rally is going to reach? Is it going to reach the historic highs of the $20 about 4 months ago, or the $75 about a year ago? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, everyone, may the markets trade in your favor. Cheers.